Smarter Balanced Interim Assessments. Where can you find them, and how do you administer them? You will find the interim assessments at the Montana Assessment Portal. The URL is there listed on your screen. You'll log into this URL and you'll see this main facing page. This has all of the assessments in Montana. Go ahead and click on the Smarter Balanced button. You will see this Smarter Balanced overview. These tiles are all pertaining to Smarter Balanced assessments. This is the portal where you will administer the summative tests in the spring, and it is where you will administer the interims. It is also where you will have access to the digital library. The Practice, Training, Test, and Administration buttons at the top are just that. These are practice tests. You will not get any data from students that are in the practice test administration window, but it is a good chance for you to have students practice how to take these online tests. It gives them practice with the tools, they can see how the questions work, things like that. So this might be an opportunity for you to just have students practice, but you will not get any data from those practice tests listed at the top of the screen. Take a look at the second row. You'll see an assessment viewing application with the red box around it. Here you will be able to preview all of the interim assessments offered for grades 3 through 8 and even high school. You can take a look at all the interim assessment blocks and the interim comprehensive assessments, including the performance tasks. This is the first step in deciding what interim assessment you would like to deliver. Unlike the summative, the goal of the interims is for teachers to be able to take a deeper look at the questions and be fully aware of every item you're administering before giving it to your students. Next to that button is the Test Administration button. You're familiar with this button from the summative assessment, and interim assessments run exactly the same way. Here you select the interim that you would like to administer and set up sessions for students to take the test. Students sign into the secure browser to take the selected interim assessment, just like on the summative exams. Students will need their student ID and first name to log in, and you may administer multiple interim assessments at the same time, just like the summative, but be sure students are selecting the interim you would like them to take. Administering interims are a great practice for the summative assessment to familiarize both yourself and your students with this assessment practice. By practicing, this will hopefully help lower any anxiety for testing that students or teachers have. To the left of that button is the Airways Interim Reporting button. This is where you will go to see your scores. Generally, scores are ready about 24 hours after you've given an interim assessment. And you will be able to drill down and see how your students answered on each question. You can see general trends for your class as a whole, and you'll be able to really see data that will help drive your instruction. Later on in the course, we will talk a little bit more about that data. Then you'll see in the bottom row, there's the digital library. Once you've administered an interim assessment and looked at your data, the digital library is there for next steps. All K-12 teachers in Montana can create an account using their school email, and there they can access plans and activities that directly align to the interim assessment that you just administered. They have recommendations for students based on their proficiency levels, below, at or near, or above. And this can really help you drive your instruction and give very focused and intentional instruction to students. Now let's dig into the interims. I would like you to select this interim viewing assessment application. We're going to go ahead and go there and take a look and see what it looks like. Remember, from the main portal page, you'll select Smarter Balanced and then click Interim Assessment Viewing Application. Go ahead and log in. Make sure your pop-ups aren't popping up. And then on the Select a Grade, just make sure you got your pop-ups ready there. We're going to go ahead and select 6th grade for an example. And now you can see all the available interim assessments for 6th grade. You see math ones here at the top, and you'll see some ELA ones here, and some more math ones. And you can see that these align directly to our standards, to the targets and claims that Smarter Balanced has identified in grouping our standards together. But here we have listen and interpret, editing, writing and revising, analyzing information, language and vocabulary use. If you click on one that you'd like to see, you'll select the form, hit next. You are now actually going to be looking at it as if from the student perspective. So you'll have to play the video to check and make sure you can hear it. Yes, we can hear the sound. Hit continue. And now you are going to see pretty much exactly what your students will see. This is the language and vocabulary use sample, and there will probably be 10 to 15 questions. So each of our interim assessment blocks have about 10 to 15 questions. And I'd like you to really take time to go through, read the questions, understand how the directions work, understand the tools, look how students can zoom in or zoom out. Maybe they can write notes. Maybe they can mark a question to come back for it later. There are highlighters sometimes available. So take time to go through these questions and get a feel for what questions will be on the 6th grade language and vocabulary use, or select your own grade level. But take some time to look through and take some notes. What do you notice? Now that you've had a chance to look at the interim assessment viewing application, how can these help your students? How can these help your instructional planning? Well, one thing that we have talked about a lot with teachers across the state who are using the interims is that students really benefit from working through the interims. They have exposure to the testing platform, this online testing. They have practice using scrap paper, particularly for math. They have exposure to the accessibility or designated supports for those accommodations that some students may have according to their IEPs. They have practice using the calculator or the highlighter tool. Students can gain an appreciation of the depth of standards. So often a text piece will have 2 or 3 or 4 questions directly relating to each other and back to the text. Another advantage for the interims for students is that you can share the data that students get with them. For teachers, interim assessments can help really improve your instructional goals and your instructional planning. You can use these interim assessment blocks as pre and post tests during instruction. Say you're working on a geometry unit. Maybe you go in and have your students do the 5th grade geometry unit first, and then you come back and have them do that interim assessment again at the end of the unit and see what growth was there. That may be a possibility. Districts can use them as benchmarking tools. And also, you as a teacher, as you go through these interim assessments, you'll see those questions and you'll see the type of questions that your students are being asked. And this just helps to inform you what's going to be on that summative test.